Hello, I'm Rabbi Elton from the Great Synagogue in Sydney, and our personality today is Rabbi Nathan Marcus Adler, born in 1803 and died in 1890. Nathan Adler was one of the creators of a new type of rabbi, one that was not only educated in traditional sources but also went to university, in his case to PhD level, and therefore combined traditional and Western modern learning in the same person. He was born in Hanover to a distinguished rabbinical family. He's descended from Nathan Adler, the great Kabbalist, who's one of the teachers of Rabbi Moses Sofer we talked about a little time ago. And he not only was taught by his family, by his father, and by the local rabbis, but he was also sent to university. And therefore, when he embarked on his career in the rabbinate in Germany, he was very attractive to those communities who wanted not only a rabbi who was very comfortable with the traditional sources, but also could help them in their quest to be part of the modern world, and who they could respect as a member of that world as well. The Jews of London were coming to that view about their own orientation, and so when a vacancy arose for the Chief Rabbinate of Great Britain in 1845, he was the one who beat many of the distinguished candidates, including Rabbi Samson Hirsch and Rabbi Benjamin Auerbach, to be elected as the Rabbi of the Great Synagogue in London, and therefore as the Chief Rabbi of all the communities of the British Empire. He set about making several aesthetic reforms to the synagogue service to make it more acceptable to a modern Western idiom and a Western sensibility. He encouraged the wearing of robes, he encouraged the choir to be introduced into the synagogue and to sing, he encouraged very strict decorum. And these were all contained in a document issued in 1847 to all of the communities in the British Empire, informing them how they ought to conduct their services in keeping with both traditional Judaism and in keeping with the modes and norms of contemporary Western society. He was responsible for many important innovations and creations in Anglo Jewry. Jews College, which for many years produced rabbis and ministers, chazanim for the English-speaking communities, was his creation. He was the instigator of the United Synagogue, the union of London congregations, which eventually came to include many more, as they were founded both in London and in the surrounding areas. He sponsored the creation of the prayer book, a standard Anglo-Jewish prayer book, which has now gone through several editions, the most recently by Rabbi Sachs in 2006. The major criticism of Rabbi Adler is that he was a great centralist, that he regarded himself as not only the chief rabbi, but really the only rabbi, the Rav of the entire community. It was actively discouraged for other ministers in the London community to become rabbis, to get smicha, and if they did so, they were still referred to as reverend. He regarded this very fine balance between modernity and tradition could only be maintained by a very firm hand from the centre, maintaining exactly the right to a combination of those two elements. And therefore he was very reluctant to give any freedom to anybody else in the community to offer religious leadership. In the long term, especially through his son, Rabbi Herman Adler, this led to a certain stunting of religious creativity in the English-speaking communities, but his contribution in establishing an Orthodox hegemony in the British Empire, almost unknown in the rest of the modern world, whether in Western Europe or in America. That is his unique and great achievement, which still stands to this day. Thank you for joining.